maker. But perhaps the house is not trying to say that. For example, may I interrupt? Mr. Poromboto Chattopadhyay has arrived, and the ladies out here all gleefully smiling. A small little question to this audience: what actually affects you? Intellectualism, or the fact that he's one of those handsome individuals out here? Answer from there. That they were waiting for the glamorous you to arrive, and they were not really following the intellectual pursuits which we were following out here. Anyway, to continue what I was saying is, this is a very interesting point. When Van Gogh was painting, the painting 300 years from then really had an impact. The Van Gogh did not create the painting because it was going to have an impact. I felt that that's where the motion is resting. That perhaps the filmmaker, if he's not a documentary filmmaker, if he's just a creative filmmaker, does not necessarily have to have a situation where he's consciously trying to create change. No, I said, what I'm saying is they have an agenda. Whereas a filmmaker, I'll clarify the point. The point is that when I'm creating a fiction film, I'm not having an agenda of trying to document something. You might have, yes, true. That's what I'm coming to. What I'm trying to say is that a filmmaker is making a film not to affect change. Whether it changes later on is a different matter altogether. It's again a controversial, a debatable issue. Unfortunately, Porom, although you have just arrived, you are the next speaker. Yeah. Cinema creates socio-political change. So we're going to have a really extempore, instantaneous impromptu, and I hope you've not lost your wicket for 4 runs. He was actually playing cricket while we are doing intellectual pursuit out here. Would you take the lectern, please? 500 cameras shooting you.
To begin with, I'm kind of regretting my decision to have said yes to Dr. Ghosh's invitation for this session, because I really feel humbled, and I completely feel at a loss of words already, that is, simply because of the fact that I'm in the company of my seniors and betters, people like Onjunda. When I was coming in, I was hearing him blaring with Hiroshima Mon Amour, and my knees started trembling immediately. Oh my God! And then I saw him speaking against the motion, so that set me, that made me more nervous. Goes without saying it. I really do not need to put stress on the fact, or actually explain, or actually even say anything that I am the least capable of all these speakers here, because I have, not only I'm the youngest, I'm guessing I'm the youngest, but also because of the fact that I'm the least learned here. This is a debate, I'm aware, and there are time limitations and stuff like that, but really I don't think I'm here for a debate.
Go ahead, Porom, because if I ring the bell, they're going to kill me.
No, I mean, I'm just taking advantage of that fact, nothing else. Right, so cinema creates socio-political changes. The thing is, I'll keep it very short as far as the motion is concerned. I simply feel that if the agenda of a filmmaker, or for that matter any artist, is that I'm going to do this to bring about this or that change, then the end outcome might or might not actually turn up to be what is desired right at the beginning. But I do think that as an artist, especially as a filmmaker, why? Because I think cinema is the most popular medium. Not only is it a popular medium, but I also feel that it's the most popular medium. It has that capacity to reach out to thousands and thousands of people, to millions of people, instantly almost. So I do think that as an artist, working within the domain of cinema requires to be disturbed, requires to be influenced by whatever is going on around him or her. There can be loads of theories which will oppose this entire idea, but I've learned it from Onjunda himself, actually, for that matter, that an artist has to represent his or her time. So I do think that, might not be consciously, but I do think that cinema definitely can bring about socio-political changes, at least can try to deal with things, to deal with situations, to deal with ideas, to deal with theories, to deal with circumstances that we see every day And instead of becoming selfish buffoons, I think we should actually sometimes get affected, get disturbed by what is happening around us. And since we all work in the domain of cinema, we all are somehow or the other connected to the world of cinema, and that is our only mode of expression for us, people like us. I think that is where we can actually express the fact that we have been disturbed, we have gotten affected. Now, whether that manifestation in our work, the manifestation of the fact that we have been affected, whether that will actually have the desired effect, and whether that socio-political change will eventually happen or not, how do we really measure whether a socio-political change is happening? Suppose if I make a film like, suppose I make a film which is essentially where I am manifesting or where I am expressing a certain situation which has gotten me affected, which has left me extremely devastated, which has left me disturbed, which has left me moved. Now the thing is, when I'm talking about a certain audience, that audience is divided into so many parts, it has so many sections, it has so many factions. There can be one faction which can always think that now lungi dance is a far better option than this, and I'll actually go and watch my kind of masala entertainment. Whereas there always will be another section which will actually get motivated by that kind of cinema, or rather the fact that I have been affected by this situation, and because I have made this film, I will always manage to actually move or motivate a certain section of the audience. So it is an extremely grey, or rather a vague area that we are talking about. It is not really an absolute idea. It is very relative whether socio-political change can happen or not. So I'm not sure whether I'm speaking for the motion exactly, because I think Anand is going to kind of come at me once I'm done with my speech. Because simply for not having exactly spoken for the motion per se, and not being jingoistic enough about the motion. But I really feel that what is a socio-political change in today's day? I personally would consider that I have managed to bring about a socio-political change if with a film of mine I see that I have managed to move with my cause that I'm coming up with in my film. If I have managed to move about 100 people, if I have managed to make at least 100 people think about it, maybe for a day, for me, in today's world, that is a socio-political change enough. Where do we see socio-political change around us nowadays? There is a lot of negativity all around us. There's a lot of darkness all around us. I think we are all going to agree upon that. So if I consider having managed to make 100 people think with my cinema, with my film, I would consider that to be a success when I'm saying that my film will be able to bring about a socio-political change. Thank you.
The young ladies out there, I didn't ring the bell. And just like Anjunda, there was a lot of time he could have spoken further and further. Having known Param for a long, long time, I have had the privilege of working in a film with him called Hawa Badal, which he directed and acted. And I have had the privilege of watching a film in which I was supposed to work and I couldn't, unfortunately, called Lodai. I think as a filmmaker, there's one interesting point which he made, although I'm going to excuse him because he was probably not prepared, he was playing cricket and he's kind of mentally disturbed because Anjanda was blaring. So Anjanda, you were at fault. But at the end of the day, I think one interesting point came through was, does a filmmaker make a conscious choice of making a film? You could make a choice of making a film where the hero and the heroine runs around trees, or you could make a lodai. You could have a film where an eagle soars and a lion roars and it makes tons and tons of money both for the producer and the director, and you could make a Mege Dagatara. You could make a Moner Manush, or you could make another film where it's just pure entertainment. Now, it leaves us with the question, is the filmmaker consciously trying to take a decision of making a film where he consciously wants to make a change, whether it's for 100 people or 10,000 people, whether it's now, whether it's 15 years later in the future? To bring up the rear of the opposition, the rump of the opposition, Dr. Vinayak Sinha, who's a very dear friend of mine, who he's been debating for 20 odd years, and he has kindly consented, and that's why he needs a good applause, to speak at the debate at 5 minutes notice.
एक झूठ अगर बार बार कहो तो वो सच हो जाता है, in 1986, when we first joined medical school here in National Medical College, there's a movie which came out, I think it was called Aakhri Rasta by Amitabh Bachchan, where he deeply baritoned these lines, essentially bringing to the fore a couple of words, perception and reality. Now, gentlemen and ladies, your perception might be that the chairperson, Mr. Kaushik Ghosh, was studying about the androgynous changes in clothing of women when he was watching Marlene Dietrich. The reality would be that he was salivating on her body. Dr. Chattopadhyay, Anandadi, spoke about regression for women, movies making it regressive for women. I ask you, Anandadi, this gentleman in the Uber cab who was raping a woman in Delhi, he was inspired by a woman, or was he actually really badly mentally disturbed, a complete scum of society who has never actually seen a film? He was affected by lust. That is the reality. Let us not confuse perception with reality. We come to Paramita. Paramita Mitrabhomik had the perception that she was the only person not connected to cinema in this podium. Just look at the reality. She forgot about me, maybe because of the perception that any good-looking man has to be in films. Nilotpalda. Nilotpalda's perception was that it would cause poriborton. The reality, ladies and gentlemen, we in Bengal know what poriborton means. I like Porambroto. I like Porambroto. He said that he was speaking in front of elders. Trust your elders, Porambroto. You spoke completely against the motion. Thank you very much. Man, this chap was super. He's the superstar in Bengali movies. And he said that his movies make 100 people think. There's 100 people in this audience, Porambroto. They do not reflect society. There's far more to society than 100 people. You do not affect 100 people, do not make a society. 100 people do not create socio-political changes. And also, you said, how would you assess socio-political changes have happened? Well, you can't, because it hasn't happened. Ladies and gentlemen, socio-political changes created by cinema hasn't happened. And that is why today we have people intellectualizing the entire thing, speaking of huge concepts, philosophies, yet not coming down to brass tacks. I am not a cinema person. I'm a poor little doctor who graduated out of National Medical College. My cinema is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Kuch Kuch Hota Hai was a movie which I saw when I was in England. I hadn't visited India for a long time. My perception was college campuses had Ferraris running around. Look at National Medical College, ladies and gentlemen. And cinema affecting politics. Kuch Kuch Hota Hai showed a completely apolitical college setup. Now we come to Bengal, 2015. There is murder in student politics affecting various campuses across the city. And we are talking of cinema affecting socio-political change. Where are we sitting? And to start off from there, I would also like to go into a little bit of serious discussion. Recently watched a movie called The Imitation Game. Many of you have watched it. It's about Alan Turing. Alan Turing is one of the greatest intellectuals to have ever graced this earth. And the movie was just superb. But actually, the movie came out 50 years after Alan Turing was chemically castrated. And the law changed that homosexuality was not illegal about 5 years before the movie was made. So I put it to you, actually, the socio-political change created the cinema and not cinema creating a socio-political change. And to come to our very own close by, it's called the movie Haider, which I really enjoyed, immensely enjoyed. Changes in Kashmir have taken place already. Such battering and bruising of innocent minds have changed. And it took us till 2015 to actually reflect that on screen. So again, we have cinema replicating what has happened in the society. Actually, we are all suffering from this perception-reality problem. And I will end with a little story to encapsulate what actually perception in reality is all about. There was a man who had a Rolls Royce. He rode this Rolls Royce round every day. And then suddenly one day in the middle of the road it stopped. However much he tried, he couldn't make it aroused. He called the engineers from the Rolls Royce company. The people came in, they looked at his car, opened the bonnet. There wasn't even an engine inside the car. The man asked the engineers, "What are you talking about? I always thought there was an engine inside the car." The engineers told him, "Dada, একদিন রেপুটেশনে চলছিল." Ladies and gentlemen, our reputation চলবে না, রিয়ালিটির কথায় আসতে হবে. The reality is socio-political changes define cinema. This is what has made cinema what it is today, and that is why we respect Anjan Da, Shumon, Kamaleshwar, Parambrata, and Nilotpal Da, and Anand so much. But the truth does not change. It is cinema which is riding on socio-political changes and not the other way around. Thank you very much.
There is a rule in Oxford-style debate that after the debate is over, the moderator or the chairperson asks the public to vote whether for or against the motion. It seems the exit polls are already out. Kejriwal is winning. And he has spoken. And I'm so proud because although he's my junior, we have been debating together for almost 11 years, running from school and college. Brilliant. But, of course, there are always going to be points. And I wish I could speak against you, but I'm sitting on the fence and I'm getting hemorrhoids in the process. So, a lie repeated enough number of times becomes the truth. He quoted from a film by Amitabh Bachchan. Approximately 67 years before that, the line was spoken by Goebbels, the publicity minister of Adolf Hitler. You see, you don't remember that. You remember that Amitabh Bachchan spoke that line. You see the change that cinema has on society? And to put it very bluntly, even if you've spoken or have not spoken, there were these two Buddhist monks who were going down the road. And, there was this lady who was by the riverside. The river was in flood. And one Buddhist monk told the other, "I think we should help this lady to cross over to the other side." And the second monk said, "No, we can't touch her. We're not supposed to touch women." The first monk said, "But she's going to drown because the river's water is rising." So without taking the consent of the second monk, he took the lady on his shoulders, swam through the river, put her down on the other side of the river, and then walked on. After about a mile, the second monk who had refused said to the first monk, "That was a very bad thing that you did. You carried a woman on your body." So the first monk looked at him and said, "You're still thinking about the lady? I left her down by the riverside." So all arguments said and done, ladies and gentlemen, when you're going to get out of this auditorium, you don't care a damn what Anjan Da, Shuman Mukhopadhyay, Kamaleshwar, and Dr. Vinayak Sinha said. You will say, "Cinema creates changes in my heart." So before I draw the curtains down on this debate, there has to be a last say, the last word, the final word. And again, according to the rules of Oxford debate, I call upon the leader of the opposition, Kamaleshwar Mukherjee, to give the closing arguments in favor before we call it to vote.
নমস্কার, আপনারা অনেকটা সময় ধরে ডিবেটটা শুনছেন। আমি খালি আমাদের তরফে কয়েকটা পয়েন্ট একটু গুছিয়ে বলে যাব। এক নম্বর হচ্ছে যে যখনই আমরা এই কথাটা বলছি যে একটা ছবি দেখেছি, ছবিটা আমার মনের মধ্যে কিছু একটা তৈরি করেছে, সেটা কিন্তু সবসময় আমরা বলছি একটা ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল লেভেলে। এখন আমার মনে তৈরি করেছে, অন্য কার মনে কি কি তৈরি করেছে সেটা বুঝতে গেলে একটা ছবি আমার মনে আছে ফেস্টিভ্যালে দেখার আগে একটা ভিড় হয়েছিল, ছবিটার নাম ছিল সেক্স লাইজ অ্যান্ড ভিডিও টিপস। এখন এই সেক্স লাইজ অ্যান্ড ভিডিও টিপস নামটা শুনে কার মনে কে কি হচ্ছে এইটা বলা খুব মুশকিল। কেউ ভিডিও টেপ খুঁজছেন, কেউ মিথ্যে কথা খুঁজছেন। তো সুতরাং ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল লেভেলে একটা জিনিসকে দেখে সাডেনলি বলা যায় না যে আই ক্যান জেনারেলাইজ অন দ্য সোসাইটি, সরি। তো সোশ্যাল চেঞ্জ হবে, আই ডোন্ট থিঙ্ক সো। ইয়েস, ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল চেঞ্জেস ক্যান আকার ডেফিনেটলি। সেকেন্ড, একটা কথা বলি যে ওই বাড়িতে প্রিয়াঙ্কা চোপড়ার পোস্টার রয়েছে, সঙ্গে দুর্গার পোস্টার রয়েছে। এটা খুব স্বাভাবিক, কারণ দুর্গা একজন সোশ্যাল আইকন, প্রিয়াঙ্কা চোপড়া আর একজন সোশ্যাল আইকন। আর প্রিয়াঙ্কা চোপড়াকে আইকন তৈরি করা হয়েছে যেমন দুর্গাকে তৈরি করা হয়েছে, তো এই দুটো পাশাপাশি থাকবে, এটা খুব স্বাভাবিক। আমি অবশ্য আরো কয়েকজনের ছবি আশা করেছিলাম, ছিল না, ভাগ্য ভালো। যাই হোক, মানে আমাদের বাংলা ফিল্ম ইন্ডাস্ট্রি। এরপর একটা কথা উঠেছিল যে একটা ছবি দেখলাম আমি, ছবিটা আমার সাবকর্টিক্যাল লেভেলে একটা ইমোশনাল ক্যাথারসিস করলো, যার কারণে হয়তো আমার চোখে জল এলো বা আমি হাসলাম এটসেট্রা। এইখানে আই উড লাইক টু রিমাইন্ড ইউ, ছবি বা থিয়েটার আমরা যেটুকু মানে জেনেছি, আমার থেকে বিদগ্ধ বক্তারা সবাই ওখানে রয়েছেন, সবটা কিন্তু ইমোশনাল খেলা নয়, এবং কমিউনিকেশন বাই আইডেন্টিফিকেশনটাই একমাত্র পদ্ধতি নয়। কমিউনিকেশন বাই এলিয়েনেশনটাও কিন্তু একটা পদ্ধতি, যেটা কোনো সময় বার্টল ব্রেস্ট বা কোনো সময় জাঁ-লুক গোদার চেষ্টা করেছে। এবং সেক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু আমরা তাদের আইডিয়াটাই ছিল যে আমি দর্শককে এলিয়েনেট করে প্রথমেই রাখবো, সো দ্যাট তিনি আমার ইমোশনটাতে ভেসে গিয়ে আমার আসল কথাটা না শোনেন, ট্রিপেনি অপেরার কথা বলছি, এবং তার ফ্রন্টাল লোবটা কাজ করে, তিনি যেন ভাবতে শুরু করেন সেই জায়গা থেকে। ইটস নট অ্যাবাউট ইমোশনালি বিং থ্রিলড। এটা একটা ফর্ম, ওটা আর একটা ফর্ম। দুটো ফর্মে কোনটা জিতবে ফাইনালি সেটা বলা খুব মুশকিল, কিন্তু দুটো ফর্মই একসঙ্গে অপারেট করে, আজও করে, এটা কিন্তু সত্যি। এরপর একটা জায়গা আসছে যে আমরা যখন বলছি যে কোথাও কোথাও আমরা হয়তো একটা নৈরাশ্যের জায়গায় যাচ্ছি যে তাহলে তো ছবি বানানো সম্ভব নয়, কারণ শ্রেণী চরিত্র অব দ্য প্রডিউসার যদি এরকম হয় যে সে হচ্ছে আমার সবসময় বিরোধী এবং আমাকে নিজেকে সাস্টেন করতে হবে, তাহলে আমি ছবি কি করতে পারবো না? না, করতে পারবো। সারা পৃথিবী জুড়ে কিন্তু ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট ফিল্মস হচ্ছে, মানুষ কিন্তু মোবাইলেও ছবি তোলে এবং সেই ছবি কিন্তু মানুষকে দেখানো যায় এবং পুরস্কারও লাভ করে। সেই ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট ছবির স্পেসটা কিন্তু এখনো রয়ে যাচ্ছে, এটা যে একদম বন্ধ হয়ে যাচ্ছে তা নয়, যদিও কিছু কিছু টেকনিক্যাল ডিফিকাল্টি ডেফিনেটলি আছে, আর এক্স্যাক্টলি সব সাবজেক্ট ওইভাবে ট্রিট করা যায় না, দ্যাট ইজ অলসো ট্রু। এরপর আসছে যে একজন কনসিয়াসলি সাবজেক্ট চুজ করেন কি না। আমার মনে হয় যে এইখানে আমরা কনসিয়াস আর আনকনসিয়াসের জায়গাটা গুলিয়ে ফেলি। আমি আমার পার্সোনালিটিটা, আমার সাইকিটা, সেটা যদি আজকে আমার বয়স হয়ে থাকে 45, তাহলে 45 বছরের যদি আমি একটা লংজিটিউডনাল স্টাডি করি, তাহলে 45 বছর ধরে আমার একটা হিউজ আনকনসিয়াস ডেভেলপ করেছে, আর তার উপরে কনসিয়াসটা রয়েছে একটা টিপ অফ দ্য আইসবার্গ। আমি হঠাৎ কনসিয়াসলি যেতে যেতে যদি একটা ঘনাদার বই দেখে দাঁড়িয়ে পড়ি, মনে হয় যে এই ছবিটা করলে কেমন হয়, এই ঘনাদাটা কিন্তু আমার আজকের এখনকার রিয়েলাইজেশন নয়, এটা আমার ছিলই, দীর্ঘকাল ধরে ডেভেলপ করেছে। হঠাৎ করা কাজ কখন হয়? যখন একটা ফরমাইশি কাজ পড়ে যায়, কারণ ওই মানে দিনের পর দিন খুব শিল্পমনস্কভাবে কাজকর্ম করতে গিয়ে তারপর তো আস্তে আস্তে মানে একটা ভয়ঙ্কর দুর্বিষহ অর্থনৈতিক পরিস্থিতি তৈরি হয়। তো সেইটাকে যখন মানে কখনো কখনো সেটা থেকে বেরিয়ে আসতে চেষ্টা করে মানুষ, তো তখন স্বাভাবিকভাবেই ফরমাইশি কাজ করতেই হয়। কিন্তু দু ধরনের কাজই কোনো রকম সোশ্যাল পলিটিক্যাল চেঞ্জ আনে বলে আমার বিশ্বাস নেই, আনলেস এন্ড আনটিল দেয়ার ইজ এন ইকোনমিক ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচারাল চেঞ্জ। আবারও বলছি, ভারতবর্ষের ইতিহাসে যদি আমি বলি ইকোনমিক ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচারাল চেঞ্জ বেসিক্যালি, তাহলে আমি কটা বলতে পারি? 2 মিনিট। আমি যদি শুরু করি যে একটা সময় ল্যান্ড রিফর্ম, তারপরে একটা সময় হচ্ছে ন্যাশনালাইজেশন অফ কোল মাইন্স অ্যান্ড ব্যাংক সেক্টরস, তারপর একটা সময় এলো ওপেন মার্কেট ইকোনমি, এবং অ্যাবলিশন অফ রেট ইকুয়ালাইজেশন পলিসি, এগুলো সব কিন্তু ইকোনমিক এবং পলিটিক্যাল কতগুলো স্টেটমেন্ট এবং কতগুলো চেঞ্জ। এই চেঞ্জগুলো কিন্তু ভারতবর্ষটাকে আস্তে আস্তে আজকের ভারতবর্ষ তৈরি করেছে 1947 সালের পর, এবং এগুলোর জন্যে কেউ ছবি বানাননি। এটা ঠিক যে আজকে যখন কনজিউমারিজমটা এসেছে, যখন আজকে ওপেন মার্কেট ইকোনমি এসেছে, সেটা রিফ্লেক্ট করে অনেকে ছবি বানিয়েছেন, সোশ্যাল কমেন্ট রেখেছেন। তাই আমার আগের পূর্ববর্তী বক্তাদের মতোই আমার কথা, সেটা হচ্ছে সোশ্যাল বা পলিটিক্যাল বা ইকোনমিক চেঞ্জ দ্যাট ক্যান প্রিসিড দ্য চেঞ্জ ইন সিনেমা, বাট নট ভাইস ভার্সা। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you, Ganesh. Like in the parliament speaks at the end, so you have the last word, and I hope and pray that you can counter Commons argument.
I would like to begin by thanking all the speakers against the motion for actually speaking for the motion. Thank you all of you, because in some way or the other all of you have acknowledged that cinema does bring about change. To start with, Kamaleshwar, you, when you were summing up, you said that cinema brings about social change, not individual change. It was a Freudian slip, but it probably came from your heart. Thank you. When you spoke first, you talked about that. You said that cinema only brings about cultural changes, but culture is part of society. Culture is what shapes society. So thank you again. And cinema is a part of activism. It is true that finally it is activism which brings about political changes, but cinema is a part of activism one way or the other. And we're talking about class conflicts, talking about Anand Patwardhan's films. How many people have seen his films? Well, his films run to packed houses. Wherever his films are shown anywhere in any part of the world, they run to packed houses, which I'm not sure even mainstream cinema does everywhere, except maybe Shah Rukh Khan's films. And coming to Shumon, when we are talking about atmosphere when in some countries the entire country contributed towards the making of a film, it has come back. Technology has helped us in many ways. So now we have crowdfunding on the internet. So there are many filmmakers who are opting for crowdfunding, asking for money on the net, and people are donating and people are making films out of it. So we don't necessarily have to fall in the trap of the distributor and make Farmaishi films. We can also make films that we want to make, which do bring about change. And as Nilotpalda said, that films can change individuals, it can change my mind, it has an impact on my mind. And when it impacts your mind, then that is the real change. And that is the reason why the government is always at loggerheads with media, because media informs you. It keeps your minds alive, it keeps your conscience alive. It's a watchdog, it tells you what is going on. So mainstream filmmakers are being manipulated. But what about independent filmmakers? And Lal Shikar koreche je primary duty is to change society. So in a way, he has supported the motion. Now whether it changes society suddenly, all of a sudden, because cinema is not an instant noodle, that change will happen in 2 minutes. It's a gradual change that takes place. It is true that celebrity worship is not equivalent to change, but celebrities often endorse social changes. We have seen how celebrities like Amir Khan or some other celebrities, they actually endorse social changes. So that is an indirect way of how cinema or the audiovisual medium does affect change. Anjuna, thank you for saying that art makes you think and stimulates your intelligence and a better intellectual person. But a society is changed by stimulated and motivated individuals. Society is not a separate entity. Society is a collective of individuals. And when individuals are motivated and stimulated intellectually, then that is what brings about change. And great cinema creates pockets of change. Satyajit Ray's cinema may not have created a mass change, it may not have had a mass audience, but it definitely creates pockets of change. And finally, when we talk about, when BINAYAK talks about, he makes fun of Porum when about only 100 people watching his films. What change can 100 people make? Well, let me remind all of you that one person with determination and inspiration can bring about change. Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they only needed inspiration, they needed to be motivated. So you don't need to inspire 1 billion people. You don't need 1 billion people to make a change. You don't need to reach to 1 billion people at a time. Even if you reach 100 people and one of them is motivated enough and strong enough, then that has a chain effect on bringing about change. So 1 person or 100 persons is good enough. And finally, I would like to end on a personal note. How cinema brought about a social change in my life. Before watching Tare Zameen Par, I'm not a doctor, I'm not from the medical faculty. So before watching Tare Zameen Par, I wasn't aware that there is a disability called dyslexia. My daughter is dyslexic. We discovered it 2 years after I watched Tare Zameen Par. And it's because I watched the film that I could understand what she was going through. Without cinema, without the power of cinema, I could not have found that out. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes, but before I do, I was thinking of what I should say, but since she ended with Tare Zameen Par, I have a personal connection with that because this concept of autism, Asperger's syndrome and dyslexia that was portrayed in the movie, the entire graphics was done by a company called Tata Interactive Systems, for which my wife works. And till date, even after the release, the corporate social responsibility program that TIS has all over India is taking care of parents, not as privileged as you are, the poor parents who work with these children. But this, as an aside, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi never watched films. So whatever changes he might have created in India are nothing to do with films at all. There are 3 people in the world who are important. One was Dhritarashtra, Mahabharata. Second is the Speaker of Parliament. And third is the moderator of a debate. Because I really cannot decide which side of the motion I shall be on. And naturally, being in Anjunda's words, a film-seeing, intellectually aware person, naturally a lot of thoughts are going through my mind. But all said and done, I have a few little personal questions. Of course, I don't want them to answer that perhaps when I saw Bo Barracks Forever, made by Anjunda, it was a film which moved me because it was a commentary on a certain section. It was kind of like historical perspective on that community, on the way the city was being destroyed. And then Bomkesh happened, and Bomkesh Phirelo was running to packed houses. Not only are the films of Shah Rukh Khan, Anunadi, which goes to packed houses, Bomkesh Phirelo ran to packed houses for almost 4 weeks. But then I was caught in a quandary. Was Anjunda the filmmaker more happy, more satisfied in making Bo Barracks or Bomkesh Phirelo? And Porum at the same time was sitting next to me and said, cinema doesn't make any socio-political change because Lodai to cholloi na. No change was made. He tried to make a comment. So I'm not going either for or against the motion. No, your chance is over. Thank you. So it's something like you cannot make a commentary on either side because that is the fun of a debate. But then it leaves you with questions unanswered. There are 2 ways of looking at a debate. One is the gentleman who has passed away, Mr. Kapadia, who was our debating coach in school of both me and Dr. Vinayak out there. He used to say debating is speaking nonsense with sense. Saved is such conviction that you will believe that man, at least for that moment. Maybe there will be no changes later on. At the same time, you can quote from, again, a film called Gone with the Wind and say, frankly, my dear, I don't care a damn. And you don't care a damn. The debate is over. You don't think anymore. Nothing happens. But the counter argument is we are always left with certain changes. We are left with the lines, Spordha geche, tumi gecho, binoy esheche. I think cinema lives as a slightly humbler individual. We learn a bit. We let ourselves be affected by it. whether intellectually or emotionally or entertainment-wise or lecherously. But at the same time, it changes. And at the end of the day, since the debate is over, it is my personal viewpoint that even if one person is changed, that one person can create a lot of change. It's like a domino effect, which is called in psychiatry. The debate is over, ladies and gentlemen, and it's up to you. The ladies and gentlemen who are out here, who are for the motion, that is, who support the motion, cinema creates socio-political change, please raise your hands. No, not the speakers. The speakers are not allowed. And may I have the people who are against the motion, who think the motion is defeated? I think the motion has been defeated. So, Mr. Anjan Dutt, Suman Mukhopadhyay, Kamaleshwar Mukherjee, and Dr. Vinayak Sinha have won today's debate. But that doesn't mean the people who spoke for the motion are wrong. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a fantastic audience, being cooperative, and being silent. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you very much.
চলে যেতে হবে